Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Conkright. What if your body is holding memories your mind can't access? Have you been in a relationship? And I'm using that word loosely because this could be a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even a situationship where you kept doing the same thing, where you knew intellectually what you should be doing differently, but your body just wouldn't do it. It did the familiar thing instead, the thing it always does. Maybe you always end up in the same exhausting dynamic, the one where you're doing most of the emotional work, or where you're the one pulling back right when things start getting real, or where you're so focused on making sure the other person doesn't leave that you can barely register what you actually want from them. And the wild thing is, you've probably tried to understand it. You've read the articles, you've taken the quizzes, you've probably talked to your friends about it enough that they could give you your own diagnosis by now. But something still isn't quite clicking. Because knowing your attachment style as a category, knowing that you're anxious or avoidant, or whatever the quiz told you, doesn't actually explain why. And without the why, the pattern just keeps running. This series is about the why. Over the next 3 episodes, I'm going to build a complete picture of how your early experiences shape the way you move through relationships today. Not in a blame your parents kind of way, not in a you're damaged kind of way, in a your feeling system made the best guesses it could way. And here's exactly how it did it. Here's what you're going to walk away with. By the end of episode 1, which is where we are right now, you're going to understand something nobody talks about clearly enough: the difference between a core feeling and an emotion. You're going to learn what shame actually is, not the moral kind, not the heavy handed kind, but the biological kind, the one that fires dozens of times a day for all of us without us realizing it. And you're going to be able to recognize it in your body, not just as a concept, but as a specific physical experience. By the end of episode 2, you're going to understand how that shame signal showing up again and again in your earliest relationships built the blueprint for how you connect with people now. You'll meet 8 distinct relational patterns, and one of them is going to feel uncomfortably familiar. And I say uncomfortably, not because it's bad news, but because recognition, real recognition, tends to feel that way at first. By the end of episode 3, you're going to have something more than just understanding. You're going to have a set of tools, specific, practical, body level tools for catching the pattern before it runs you, for creating just enough space between the signal and the story that you have to make one more available, for building the kind of relationship with yourself and with the people you care about that actually feels like something worth pursuing. Not just something you're managing, something real. That's the series. 3 episodes, each one builds on the last. Each one is worth something on its own, I hope, but together they form a complete picture. Let's start with the foundation, with what's actually happening in your body before you think a single thought about any of it. The motto of this entire series is 4 words: feel it, don't fake it. And I'll tell you right now, those 4 words are harder than they sound. Not because feeling is so difficult, it isn't, but because most of us have been faking for so long, we've forgotten that there's a difference. Let's fix that. I want to start with right now, with your body, right this moment, as you're listening to this. Something is happening in you. Some kind of signal is running. Before you form a single thought about what I'm saying, before you decide whether you agree, before you do anything with any of this, your body is already doing something. Small, fast, physical signals are running through you all the time, guiding what you pay attention to, what you move towards, what you pull back from. These signals are what I call, or what are called, core feelings. And I want to be precise about that term because we're going to use it a lot and it means something very specific. Not feelings, the way you might use that word to describe something emotional and complicated. Core feelings are the raw, biological, body first signals that come before all that. Here's the most important distinction in this entire series. Core feelings are not the same as emotions. Emotions are complicated. They have narratives, they have stories attached to them. They involve memory, they involve your interpretation of what happened. They have names like jealousy, longing, resentment, and grief. If I feel something and then start thinking about what it means, what it says to me, what it says about the other person, what's going to happen next, the thing I end up with is an emotion. It's layered, it's constructed, it's real, but it's not raw. Core feelings are raw, they're fast, they're physical. And here's the remarkable thing about them: every human being who has ever lived is born with the same set of them. Not learned, not cultural, wired from the start. A baby in Atlanta and a baby in Tokyo who've never met, who share no language, no culture, no common experience, will make the exact same face when they feel curious. The same face when they feel enjoyment or joy. The same face when they're afraid. This comes from a psychologist named Sylvan Tompkins, the originator of this. He spent his career watching faces, in particular the faces of infants, starting with his own. And what he documented was this: there are 9 basic signals the nervous system produces, each with its own specific body shape, its own facial expression, its own biological trigger, and its own purpose. Not 10, not 20, not 9. We can do the research and find out if there's others or more or less. It doesn't matter. Let's say 9. 9 is good. I'm going to walk you through them. Keep them simple in your head as I go, because these are the building blocks of everything else in the series. Don't hesitate to jump ahead a few minutes if you've already heard me explain this a dozen times before. It's perfectly fine. Curiosity. Tompkins called it interest excitement. That's the forward pull when something interesting appears. Your eyebrows come together slightly, almost like a soft knit. You lean in, your gaze sharpens. This is the signal that makes learning feel good, that makes you want to understand something, that makes you want to understand someone. It's the feeling underneath first attraction, when you can't quite tell yet if it's going anywhere, but you keep asking questions because you want to know more. Curiosity, interest, in Tompkins' language, is the engine of engagement. Enjoyment, joy. The warm opening in your chest when something good arrives or when tension goes away. The smile that moves your whole face, not just your mouth. Enjoyment is triggered by a decrease in stimulation. It's a down energy feeling. I know that's a strange way to put it, but what it means is this: tension eases, pressure lifts, the system can exhale. That exhale is joy, shared joy, the specific warmth that comes from feeling close to someone who is also feeling close to you. It is one of the most biologically powerful experiences a human being can have. Now, surprise is a different one. It's quick, it's neutral, it's fleeting. Eyes wide, eyebrows up, a brief blink, maybe a small flinch. Surprise is a reset button. It pauses whatever you were doing so you can redirect your attention to something new. It's inherently neutral, which is worth noting. It doesn't feel good or bad on its own. It just stops the current tape so the system can take in something it didn't expect. Distress is the cry for help. Corners of the mouth go down, inner eyebrows pulling up and together, and tightening in the throat, the rhythmic sobbing of a baby who has been uncomfortable for too long. Distress signals that something has been too much for too long, and its purpose is to alert you and the people around you, importantly, that something needs to change. It's the hunger cry, the loneliness cry, the pain cry. All of them are distress at different intensities. It is not failure. It is a signal. It says, I need others to take care of myself. Now, fear is cold and fast. Eyes wide, lower eyelids tense, face pale, the hair on the back of your neck standing up. Fear is the emergency system. It pulls every available resource in your body towards one goal: survival. Fight, flee, freeze. It is designed to be brief and intense. It is not meant to be your baseline. When it becomes your baseline, we need to look at what's running underneath it. And now, anger is heat, pressure, and a building push outward. The swollen, reddened face of a furious baby, the screaming that demands that the world do something. Anger in Tompkins' framework is not about evil or aggression in a moral sense. It's the signal that simply says something is way too much or something important is being blocked and it needs to change right now. Anger protects, anger demands. Anger, when it's allowed to do its job cleanly without shame and without explosion, is actually a very healthy signal. Disgust is a complicated one. It's the feeling in the back of your throat, the face pulling away, the head moving forward as almost to vomit. Disgust is an impulse to expel something that has gotten in and shouldn't be there. It begins as a response to genuinely harmful food. I mean, toxic stuff. But as the signal expands, it can take on all sorts of things around what we feel is disgusting around other people, for instance, or ideas or experiences, things that we don't want inside of us, metaphorically or otherwise. Disgust is what fires when something that has been taken in is recognized as toxic. It protects you from being poisoned in the wider sense of that word, but also socially. To smell, it's a word Tompkins coined because nothing else quite captures it. It's the nose wrinkle, the upper lips raised, the head pulls back. Disgust is with the mouth, and to smell is with the nose. And it says, get this out. Whereas disgust says, get this out. The smell says, don't take that in at all. To begin with, stop it. The pull away from something that's wrong before it gets close. It's the pull away from something that's wrong before it gets close enough to become a problem. It's the signal underneath, I need to keep my distance from this person or this situation or this thing. Healthy dismell is a form of protection. When it fires towards people who are actually safe, it's worth looking at what history it might be running on. And then the ninth, the one that this entire episode is really about: shame. Throughout the series, I'll actually refer to it as the drop. Here's what almost everyone gets wrong about shame. The version most of us picture, that heavy, searing, I'm a bad person experience, describes only the far end of a very long dial. Most of what shame actually does happens very quietly, in very hardly perceptible ways, in smaller registrations, dozens of times a day, and almost none of it gets named accurately because almost none of it feels dramatic enough to name it. We'll get to the far end of that dial, but I want to start somewhere more ordinary because that's where most of the damage actually happens. Tompkins' definition is simple and it changes everything once it lands, once you figure it out. Shame is specifically the incomplete reduction of interest or excitement. That's the whole trigger. Something good was happening, something you were reaching towards, curiosity, joy, excitement, warmth, connection, fame, glory, success, and then it got interrupted. It didn't happen, but you still want it. The signal fires in that gap in the space between reaching and the not arriving. It does not access your character. It does not evaluate whether you did something wrong. It registers one thing and one thing only. The positive feeling got cut off before it could finish. And here's what makes the drop different from every other signal on the list. It doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you are aware. Before the drop, you weren't thinking about yourself. Before the drop, you weren't thinking about yourself as yourself. Not because you're particularly confident or self possessed, just because that's what genuine engagement feels like. You're not thinking about yourself. When curiosity is running, when joy is present, when you're absorbed in a conversation or moment that matters, your attention is outward. You're in the experience. You're not watching yourself having it. The drop ends that in an instant. What arrives is self consciousness in its most literal sense, consciousness of the self. Suddenly, you're not just in the moment, you're watching yourself be in it. You're aware of how you appear, what you just said, how it landed, and what the look on someone's face might mean. That forward facing quality of your awareness folds back on itself. You become visible to yourself in a way you weren't a second ago. Think about other moments when the quality of your awareness itself has shifted, not just your mood, but the actual register of your experience. Being feverish doesn't just make you feel ill, it changes the texture of your consciousness, the way light looks different, the way your own thoughts feel slightly foreign. That's a register change. The drop is a register change. The moment doesn't change, the medium you're experiencing it in does. And here's the part that matters most for everything that follows in this series. That register change, that split second shift from present to self consciousness, is a biological signal. It's automatic. It fires before you decide anything. But within a second of its firing, your brain does something else entirely. It reaches back into every previous moment that it has ever felt like this and starts building a story. That story feels like the truth. It feels like something your body reported, but your body only reported one thing. The positive feeling got interrupted. Everything else, the I'm too much, I always do this, people always leave, that came from your history, not from the signal. The signal is biology. The story is autobiography. And most of us have spent our whole lives responding to the story while the signal went unnamed underneath it. The body has very specific things it does when the drop fires, 7 of them, depending on how strong the interpretation is and what your history with moments like this have been. All of them are real physical experiences, and they're all versions of the same thing, the same register change, the same folding of consciousness back on itself, happening at different volumes, different flavors, so to speak. But first, I want to say one more thing about why any of this matters. We live, most of us, in a culture that treats feeling as something to manage, handle, or get through so you can get back to the thinking part. We've been trained to intellectualize, to analyze, to optimize. We trust the head. We're suspicious of the body. But your core feelings are smarter than your thinking. Not in the sense that they're always interpreting the situation correctly, but in the sense that they're reporting something real, something that exists before interpretation begins. Before you decide what the look on somebody's face means, your body has already responded to it. Before you convince yourself you're fine, your nervous system and your feeling system has already registered that you're not. The gap between what your body knows and what you let yourself acknowledge is where most of the damage in relationships happen. Not from dramatic betrayals, not from catastrophic events, but from the small daily accumulation of signals that went unnamed and therefore unaddressed. Learning the names is the first step towards closing that gap.